And I blamed me,
Of course.
right? I blamed me. And then I felt really sad the humans can be that way. Why would they break the moral code? That's one thing that no animal will ever break. If you can't hurt them, hurt yourself. If you can't kill them, kill yourself.
For years, Cesar Millan was America's most famous dog trainer. Millions watched him transform aggressive dogs into obedient companions, and Dog Whisperer became one of television's biggest success stories. But behind the scenes, criticism was growing. Animal behavior experts challenged his methods. Lawsuits emerged. Controversies followed. And now, years after Dog Whisperer disappeared from television, Cesar Millan is fighting for control of the very brand that made him famous. Why did one of TV's most successful animal shows end? Who actually owns the Dog Whisperer name? And can Cesar bring it back after everything that's happened? Join us as we uncover the latest about the Dog Whisperer Cesar Millan and why he's breaking the headlines.
I would like to have a TV show.
Okay.
Right? So she wrote it down. The newspaper came on a Sunday, and by Monday was a line of producers outside my center in South Central. So the show came from the hood.
Why Cesar Millan is back. For years, Cesar's name was closely tied to Dog Whisperer, the television series that turned him into one of the most recognizable dog trainers in the world. The show built a global audience by capturing intense moments between troubled dogs and their owners as they search for solutions. His calm, controlled approach became his signature style and expanded his influence far beyond dog training. Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan first premiered in 2004 on the National Geographic Channel and quickly grew into one of the most recognizable animal behavior shows on television. Over the years, the show built a global audience and ran for 9 seasons, becoming a major part of Cesar's public identity. In 2012, the original run officially ended, closing a chapter that had defined nearly a decade of his career. However, even after it ended, the series continued to circulate through reruns and online clips, keeping its presence alive long after the final episode aired. Recently, his name has started circulating again across online platforms. The renewed attention has not come from one single appearance or announcement. Instead, it has built gradually through multiple references and ongoing conversations about his past work and current activities. His past success and current activity are being discussed simultaneously, sparking renewed curiosity about his career and direction. And that leads directly into the bigger story unfolding around the future of Dog Whisperer. Because the biggest reason Cesar Millan is making headlines today has nothing to do with his past, but with a project he is determined to bring back. Reviving the Dog Whisperer legacy. The conversation around Cesar Millan has shifted from reflection to something more active. It is no longer only about what the Dog Whisperer once was. It is now about whether it could return. The format was simple but effective. Cesar worked with dogs that had serious behavioral challenges while guiding owners through structured changes in routine and discipline. Years after the series ended, that legacy still carries weight. For many viewers, Dog Whisperer is still the reference point when Cesar Millan's name comes up. That long-standing visibility is one reason the idea of a revival has gained attention again. Cesar Millan has publicly acknowledged that he is interested in bringing the concept back in some form. In his words, "We're working on it," referring to the efforts made to revive the show. The focus is not just nostalgia. It is about revisiting a format that once reached a global audience and adapting it to a modern environment where pet ownership and training discussions have evolved. The current push centers on reintroducing the Dog Whisperer brand to new audiences, while also reconnecting with those who followed it during its original run. In recent comments, Cesar has indicated that discussions and planning are underway. although the process is not straightforward. The original series involves rights and ownership structures that extend beyond creative intent. That means any attempt to revive it requires coordination with multiple stakeholders connected to the brand. What makes this situation notable is the scale of the original success. Dog Whisperer was not a minor program that faded quietly. It became a cultural reference point in animal training television. It shaped how many viewers thought about dog behavior, leadership, and rehabilitation. Because of that impact, the idea of bringing it back carries expectations that go beyond a simple reboot. At the same time, the landscape it once dominated has changed. Pet content now exists across streaming platforms, short-form video apps, and digital training communities. Information about dog behavior is more widely available, and different training philosophies are openly debated in real time. A modern version of Dog Whisperer would enter a space that is more crowded and more critical than it was during its original run. Despite that, the interest remains strong. Part of it comes from recognition. Cesar Millan is still closely associated with the original format, and few names in dog training media carry the same level of global familiarity. That recognition gave the concept a built-in audience before any new version was even confirmed. For now, the push remains in development rather than execution. It exists as discussions, interest, and intent rather than a confirmed production. What once felt like a completed chapter is now being reconsidered. And that shift is what has turned a familiar television name into one of the most discussed comeback possibilities in recent memory. However, before Dog Whisperer can return, there is one major hurdle Cesar Millan must overcome: the ownership battle over the show. The push to bring Dog Whisperer back does not begin with cameras or scripts. It begins with ownership. Cesar Millan has publicly acknowledged that he does not currently control the full rights to Dog Whisperer. That detail has become central to any discussion about a return. He has mentioned that before the reboot can move forward, the legal structure behind the original series has to be addressed. Without that, even the idea of new episodes remains incomplete. Dog Whisperer was produced through network agreements that handled branding and intellectual property. As with many successful programs in the entertainment industry, the series' ownership was not tied entirely to the on-screen figure, even if that figure became its public identity. Over time, the series grew beyond its original scope. As the brand expanded, the structure around it became more complex. What started as a television concept evolved into a commercial asset, with multiple stakeholders involved in its control. That structure now defines the challenge of bringing it back. Cesar has spoken in interviews about the difficulty of navigating that system after the fact. He has described how, during the early stages of his career, the focus was on building the show and working with animals rather than fully understanding the long-term implications of entertainment contracts. As a result, the rights associated with Dog Whisperer fell outside his direct control. This ownership and profit structure led to a prolonged legal dispute involving Cesar Millan and the show's original production company, MPH Entertainment. At the center of the issue were questions over intellectual property, control, and revenue generated from the series' global success. Over time, the rights to the program were transferred to Dog Whisperer Productions, which is owned by the show's producers rather than Cesar Millan himself. The situation ultimately developed into a multi-million-dollar legal and business conflict. This is not unusual in television history. Many creators and performers have faced similar situations where the public face of a successful project is not the legal owner of the work itself. In Cesar's case, that separation has become more visible because of his direct association with the brand. Cesar Millan has also faced ongoing disputes with the production side of Dog Whisperer, beyond the broader ownership issues tied to reruns and reboot rights. In a reported legal filing, he claimed that under a restructuring agreement, he held a 50% profit participation in the series and was therefore entitled to audit the show's financial records annually. According to the claims, when he attempted to review those books, the production company resisted the request, escalating tensions between the parties. The situation reflects a longer pattern of disagreement over financial transparency and control, suggesting that conflicts between Cesar and the producers were not limited to the question of revival rights, but also extended into how the show's earnings and agreements were managed during and after its original run. Now, years after the original run ended, that ownership structure is the main barrier between interest and action. Any attempt to revive the series requires negotiation with the parties that hold the rights. This includes discussions about branding and how the show's original identity would be carried forward into a new production. Since the rights are controlled by the production site rather than Cesar Millan, nothing can move forward until the legal rights are sorted out. And until that happens, the future of the show remains tied to negotiation rather than production. What audiences remember as a finished television series is still, in a legal sense, an active property being discussed and potentially reshaped. That reality defines the current stage of the story. Before any revival can take shape, the foundation beneath it must be resolved. And that foundation is ownership. However, regardless of what happens with Dog Whisperer, Cesar has already built a career that extends far beyond a single television show. Life beyond television. While the Dog Whisperer name continued to dominate conversations about Cesar Millan, his work over the years has expanded far beyond television. Even after the original series ended, he did not step away from dog training or public engagement. Instead, he shifted into different formats that allowed him to reach audiences in new ways. One of his most visible efforts has been live demonstrations. Cesar has taken his training philosophy on tour, performing structured sessions in front of audiences with real dogs in real time. These events focus on behavior correction, rehabilitation principles, and owner education. Unlike television editing, live settings leave no room for cuts or selective storytelling, giving audiences a direct view of how he applies his methods in practice. He has also continued working through his Dog Psychology Center in California. The facility has remained a central part of his career, functioning as a training ground for rehabilitation cases involving dogs with behavioral issues. It operates as both a working environment and a base for his training programs. Dogs brought there are often cases requiring structured intervention, and the center has remained active in its public work over the years. Beyond physical training spaces, Cesar has also built a presence in digital media. His YouTube channel has grown into a major platform where he shares training sessions, educational content, and real case studies involving dogs and owners. This allows him to reach a global audience directly without relying on traditional television distribution. This shift has also helped maintain his visibility. Another area of expansion has been product development within the pet industry. Cesar has been involved in projects that focus on tools designed to support training and communication between dogs and owners. He has also starred in Cesar 911, a reality TV series that aired on Nat Geo Wild from 2014 to 2016. The show follows him as he responds to serious dog behavior cases, working directly with owners and their dogs to correct aggression and other urgent issues. In addition to his hands-on work, he has remained active in publishing and media. Books, interviews, and speaking engagements have continued to reinforce his position as a public figure in dog behavior discussions. His most notable titles include Cesar's Way, Be the Pack Leader, and How to Raise the Perfect Dog. These books focus on his core ideas about structure and understanding canine behavior, while also sharing stories from his journey as a trainer. His public messaging has also evolved over time. While his early television career emphasized immediate behavioral correction, later work has placed greater focus on understanding the relationship between human behavior and canine response. This shift reflects broader changes in how dog training is discussed, in which psychology and environment are increasingly considered alongside discipline and control. Through all these efforts, Cesar has maintained a consistent presence in the field of dog behavior. Even without the Dog Whisperer television program running in the background, his work continues across multiple platforms and formats. Each of these efforts contributes to a broader professional identity that is no longer tied to a single show. This diversification has also helped sustain public interest in his name. While Dog Whisperer remains the most recognizable part of his career, the work that followed has kept him active in conversations about training, rehabilitation, and animal behavior in modern contexts. As attention returns to his earlier success, these ongoing projects form the current foundation of his career. They represent a version of Cesar that exists outside of television history, operating in real time across training centers and digital platforms. Now, even as Cesar Millan expanded his work beyond television, the attention around him has continued to grow, setting the stage for where Cesar Millan goes from here. What comes next? The current wave of attention around Cesar Millan is not built on a single event. It is the result of overlapping developments that once again bring his past and present into the same frame. That combination has brought his name back into public discussion in a way that feels familiar yet unfinished. At this stage, the focus is not only on what has already happened, but also on what comes next. Cesar's future direction appears tied to several moving parts that are still developing simultaneously. The first is the ongoing conversation around Dog Whisperer. The idea of a return continues to circulate, but it remains dependent on conditions that are not fully resolved. Until those structural issues are addressed, any revival remains a possibility rather than a production. Alongside that, his broader career has already shifted into multiple directions. His work in training, live demonstrations, and digital content continues to operate independently of any single television project. That shift gives him flexibility, but it also changes expectations. A television comeback today would not look like the original Dog Whisperer. The audience, distribution channels, and public conversation around dog training have all changed. Social media now plays a major role in how behavioral content is consumed, and shorter formats often reach wider audiences than traditional episodes. Any new direction would have to exist in that environment rather than the one that existed when the show first became popular. Cesar Millan has also been involved in promoting modern pet technology, including the Halo Collar, a smart GPS-based dog training system. The device is designed as an invisible fence alternative, using satellite tracking and customizable boundaries to keep dogs within safe zones without traditional physical barriers. It provides real-time location tracking and uses layered training signals such as sound, vibration, and optional static feedback to guide a dog's behavior when approaching set boundaries. Cesar Millan has positioned the tool as part of a broader approach to responsible off-leash freedom, combining technology with structured training principles to help owners manage dogs in open environments while maintaining control and safety. Legacy is also a key factor. Cesar remains closely associated with one of the most recognizable dog training brands in television history. That association continues to shape how audiences respond to his name. For some, it represents trust and experience built over years of public visibility. For others, it remains part of an ongoing debate about training philosophy and methods. Until the legal rights are fully secured, the return of Dog Whisperer remains uncertain. Because ownership of the original series is held outside Cesar Millan's direct control, any attempt to air a reboot or continuation would depend on formal agreements with the rights holders. Without that approval, the show cannot move forward into production or broadcast, regardless of creative intent or audience demand. This creates a clear disadvantage, as it limits Cesar Millan's ability to independently revive one of his most successful projects. While a direct revival of the original show is uncertain, Cesar Millan has continued his television career with National Geographic, focusing on new series such as Cesar Millan, Better Human, Better Dog. This series reintroduces his work through a more modern format centered on updated perspectives of dog behavior and training. What happens next depends on how these different elements align. If discussions around Dog Whisperer progress, it could mark a return to the project that defined his career. If not, his focus is likely to remain on the broader ecosystem he has already built across training, media, and live engagement. There is also a wider shift in the industry itself. Animal behavior content is no longer limited to television specialists or structured programming. It now exists in open digital spaces where trainers, veterinarians, and pet owners share methods and opinions directly. In that environment, authority is shaped as much by visibility and consistency as by formal platforms. Cesar's next move will likely exist inside that changing structure rather than outside it. Whether through renewed television work, continued digital expansion, or live engagement with audiences, his direction will be influenced by both legacy and adaptation. For now, the situation remains in motion. The headlines have reopened interest in his name, but the outcome is still developing. What is clear is that Cesar Millan is not being discussed solely as a figure from the past. He is being discussed as someone whose next chapter is still being written, even though its final shape has not yet been defined. Do you think Cesar Millan deserves another shot at bringing Dog Whisperer back? What is your opinion on Cesar Millan's training methods? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.